Hello, everyone. So this episode is going to be in English because we have a special guest. I'm excited to introduce you, Yaniv Sarig. Yaniv is the co-founder and CEO of Mohawk Group Holdings, symbol MWK. Just for a full disclosure, I might hold stocks in MWK. Thank you so much for joining me today, Yaniv.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Amit. I'm excited to be here.
So in today's episode, we're going to talk about e-commerce and e-commerce research. And to be honest, one of the greatest companies I've heard about in the past few years in terms of e-commerce and e-commerce research is Mohawk. Because as a former Amazon seller, I'm really excited to hear about the tools and the ability of your company to involve tech and AI into the research and into the brainstorming process of product finding and product development. And I'm really excited to hear more about your company. So why don't you start about telling us more a bit about your company and what you're doing? How did it start?
Sure. Thanks, Amit. And it's exciting to talk to someone who's an equity research market that also has some Amazon seller background that you know the space really well. So maybe a little bit of background about Mohawk that would help everyone understand a little bit of the business model better. So we started Mohawk just a little bit over 6 years ago here in New York. And what really kind of caught our attention and sparked the vision for the company was the realization that while e-commerce was moving very quickly, traditional consumer companies that did really well in brick and mortar retail were not adapting fast enough. They were not adapting to the new ecosystem of online commerce driven by companies like Amazon and Alibaba. And specifically, the way they go to market was not enough consumer centric, not enough data driven. And we believe that there's going to be an opportunity to build a company that is a consumer product company designed from the ground up to be successful in e-commerce. And just like technology has reinvented the retail store through companies, again, like Amazon and Alibaba and others around the world, we think that technology is going to reinvent the consumer product company of the future designed for e-commerce. And so Mohawk was built with that in mind, right? We wanted to build, again, the ultimate consumer company for e-commerce. It's very important to understand for people who hear of us for the first time, we are a technology-enabled consumer company, which means that the revenues and profits that we generate come from selling consumer products. What's unique about our approach is we're thinking about online first, and we've built systems that allow us, as you mentioned, Amit, to research the market and to bring to market products that are designed based on data in a very rapid pace, right? We typically, the way we operate is we use our engine to identify opportunities in the market. Within 6 to 8 months, we turn the data that we see in the market into a product. We bring it to market, on different online channels, and then we sell it to the end customers. Again, using our technology to automate and manage and streamline the last mile shipping and the marketing and all these other aspects of the business. In essence, we're trying to be the most efficient consumer company for e-commerce, and we believe technology and agile supply chains are key for that.
Amazing. I think that in general, e-commerce is a very data-driven business that, as a former Amazon seller, I'm gonna tell you my story. So when I started, I had a really good idea about selling some slicers, and I saw in a let's call it a research product that I paid for and I subscribed for, and they found that the best category to fit in terms of competition and pricing and is slicers, and the best potential is going to be in slicers. And so I ran into Alibaba. I started to dig into it. I did my research. I contacted few suppliers, ordered some samples. And at the end of the day, I created a very nice product. But like when I finished to develop it and I started to sell it, I didn't know what to do with my insights. I had a lot of data comes from, pricing from the manufacturer and some data from Amazon. And it's a lot of data, but the insights are not together. So that's where I guess the data from Amazon come into place. In your product and in the Amy platform, which is totally something else. I wish I had it when I was a seller. So can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, what you're describing is fascinating, right? It's actually part of the disruption that I think consumer product companies are seeing today. What's phenomenal is that you just like you, thousands of others, millions actually around the world, through the new kind of world that e-commerce has created in the marketplaces business model, you are able, just like anyone else, to go compete against some of the biggest brands in the world, right? You have now, as opposed to traditional, if you wanted to build a slicing product like you described and try to put it in a brick and mortar store and Walmart, it would be extremely difficult. You would probably never be able to get in because you don't have a brand, you don't have a very strong marketing budget where you can spend enough money to convince people through TV ads to go to the store. But e-commerce has changed that, right? E-commerce has basically made it completely open for anyone to go and compete against pretty much any of the biggest brands. On one hand, as you described, you have Alibaba opening up the manufacturing engine and allowing you to connect to different manufacturers and work directly with them on designing and manufacturing your product. On the other end, you have companies like Amazon that allow you to put your product into a store that you design within their marketplace and access hundreds of millions of people around the world, right? And so that openness, that level playing field that you just described, is really extremely disruptive for traditional brands. And the methodology that you're describing is also very accurate, right? You used data, you designed the product based on what consumers wanted to do, wanted the product to be like. But as you described as well, it's not that easy, right? Once you get into the market, it's not like designing the product is enough. You also have to manage the product very efficiently based on the data in real time. And that's where it starts getting complicated, right? That's where it's becoming very difficult to scale. It's becoming very difficult also to scale, right? Because on one hand, e-commerce has made it very easy for anyone to compete. On the other, because of the massive amount of competition and now the fact that consumers have so many choices, the way they search for products, the way they're going to find your product is going to be quite complex. Because, for example, just you described a product called a slicer. Just for a slicer product for vegetables, right? There might be hundreds of different searches. There might be thousands of different competitors, and every search that consumers are performing is going to yield different results. In each one of them, you're going to try to compete against many products. It becomes exponentially difficult to manage all these variables and this data in real time after you research the product to actually make the product successful. And that's a thing that I think a lot of people who look at our company don't always understand from day one, is that it doesn't stop with identifying what is a good product. You have to have everything in that supply chain from the moment you identify what the product that you want to make is until it got to the customer. All these pieces of the supply chain have to function phenomenally well. You have to have great quality control. You have to have efficient logistics. You have to have real-time marketing that is able to prevent leak of budgets, marketing budgets into advertising that doesn't work and double down on advertising that does work. You have to constantly think about how to forecast the amount of inventory you need. So all of a sudden, on one hand, you're getting all this power, right, of being able to, to just go out there and compete against the biggest brands in the world. But on the other hand, you're now handled also a lot of problems that you have to manually try to figure out. And the more products you add, the problem becomes exponentially complex. One of the main things that we have built into Amy to help with that is automation to basically reduce the amount of, I say, quantitative analysis and tedious optimization work that is needed once the product is actually in the market. Especially, for example, around advertising, right? If you are trying to sell a slicer, as I said, you don't have a brand that people are searching for. So what you're competing against is all the advertising of searches that consumers are looking for that are very functional. Slicer for large vegetables, slicer with vacuum pump, things like that, right? There's like hundreds and hundreds of them. So your ability to manage your performance of the product for each one of the searches becomes very complicated. And that's where, again, proprietary technology and automation that manages those decisions in real time can be extremely helpful for scaling. And that's one thing that we've invested a lot in, right? So again, as you think about this business, all the pieces of the supply chain, from market research to manufacturing to quality control to logistics to marketing to forecasting to customer service, all these things have to go well. And the more you're managing more products, the more it requires more people to do that work. We strongly believe that the differentiator that's going to really build the next large consumer companies online is going to be the ability to harness technology and data to make that much more efficient, to be able to manage more products more efficiently with a fixed cost that doesn't go through the roof, empowering your people, giving your people like superpower when it comes to actually managing the portfolio of products.
Right. That's what I saw you guys did in the past few months. You've also been quite acquisitive. Can you tell us more about it? Is that part of your long-term strategy?
Yeah, it's a great question. As for those who've been following us in the last year, we've become, as you said, quite acquisitive, and it's a combination of a couple of things, right? If you look at our history, we're again just six plus years old, right? The large majority, I mean, the first 5-6 years of our company's life has been around building our platform, building the infrastructure, software, supply chain, financial infrastructure, to be able to scale the amount of products that we manage on these, e-commerce channels like Amazon and Walmart. And really our growth came mainly from a business model that is predicated on using data to find opportunities to make new products, launch them, and then run them again as efficiently as possible on our platform going forward. One of the things that happened is we scaled to just a little bit north of 180 million in revenue, and then it really became obvious to us that the platform is mature enough so we can put a lot more revenue on it and manage it very efficiently because of all the work we've done. And on one hand, our business model of launching product is in my opinion quite efficient and powerful, and has enormous potential because there's so many products available online, new products coming all the time. But on the other hand, there was also a kind of a historical opportunity currently that we feel like we have to seize, which is this M&A opportunity is built on the fact that in the last, again, 10 years or so, many different small sellers, like the experience you described, right, have tried to basically come into the market and take advantage of this opportunity that you can compete against the biggest brands. And out of the 2 million sellers out there today, for example, on Amazon worldwide, there are thousands of them that have done really well. They've been able to really kind of figure out what consumers want, build typically small brands anywhere from like 5 to 20, $30 million in revenue, typically very profitable because those businesses are run not for a large scale, but for as cash flow efficiency as possible, very bootstrap. But oftentimes, those companies have built a very, very good product, a solid product that consumers love, that has the right features, the right price point. And a lot of times when we look through our data lens, we're seeing that some of these companies have a very long shelf life for that product. That product might be continuing to do well for the next, 5, 10 plus years, right? And so part of the strategy, that evolution, as you mentioned in the last few months, has been to go and use the data, the same data that tells us what products to make can tell us what products not to make, because the competitors are already very strong. And when they are very strong, there's an opportunity to approach them and say, hey, if they're a small digital native brand and they've been doing this for a few years, we can approach them and say, hey guys, love what you built. We're interested in acquiring the assets of your company and bring them onto our platform. And so, yeah, we've done several deals in the last year, which has, obviously caused our growth to go much faster. As you're adding products through acquisitions, it goes a lot faster than manufacturing them and bring them to market, which is a longer process. And so, the way it's really unique is that when we acquire these companies, we typically take very little of their fixed costs, if not at all, right? The idea is that the data showed us that some of the products are very high quality, will continue to perform well long term, and it's an asset acquisition. We're buying these product listings, the brand, the reviews on the listing, the connection to the manufacturer, and we're basically taking that asset and putting it on our platform. Now, where I think there is a really amazing opportunity is in the ability, again, to become more efficient. Because of all the infrastructure and automation we've put in place, the amount of people we need to manage these new products is smaller, right? So again, we don't need to take all the stuff from their team. And that's part of what Amy allows us to do, to automate the management and give our people who manage the product going forward the ability to do that more efficiently.
Wow. I think it's the greatest thing to do, because if you have a product, just as I said, I had my product, I can talk to myself, like about myself. I had my product, and it was well designed. It has some of the features that other competitors didn't have, and it was well priced. Also, super modern, in my opinion. But right after I launched it, I didn't know what to do with all the data. So I think one of the biggest advantages of your company is the ability to take a brand and then put it on your platform and then scale it, to see the data, to see the insights live, and then decide what to do and how do we walk from here. So I was wondering if you can show us a little bit of it, if you can do us a little demo. Also, it's like a partial. I know it's a partial information, and obviously we are not showing, like, we're gonna show real time data, but it's not gonna be the full data. So please note, and yeah, show us.
Yeah. I mean, as you described, right, we wanted to give the viewers a little bit of a demo of that automation side of the house, and yet to kind of like add to what you said, right? We're going to share, the screen and show you a little bit of a demo of the AMI platform. Again, very focused around how to manage products, going forward. How do you do that in a as automated way possible, right? And just to add to what you said, right, the data that you'll see is live, right? I specifically am going to configure the software so it only shows us 2 out of the 12 brands that we own. And so although the data is live, there's no material non-public info that you'll see because it's only a very small fraction of our business. And so, we feel absolutely comfortable to do that. So, what I thought I would do is I'll share my screen. I'll go through some of the features of AMI on the management of products and explain, the navigation of the software. And I'll probably just pick a product that maybe a product that we acquired recently from one of the brands and show a little bit about how we're able to manage it going forward, in a more efficient way.
Amazing.
Okay, so let me jump in and share my screen. Just a second. Oh, I think you need to give me the right to do that.
Yeah. Is that cool right now?
Let me try again. Yep. Thank you.
Can you show it to us?
Yeah, just a second.
Amazing.
Okay, you can see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, reiterating the kind of caveat that I mentioned before, what you're seeing right now is real life data from AMI in real time. Again, the way I set up the demo is I'm only showing 2 of our brands right now, Home Labs and Mueller. Home Labs is a brand we built. Mueller is a brand we acquired. And, I'm specifically kind of, limiting it to just the Amazon business. So the way AMI works is it's set up so that it can connect to many different channels on which we sell. So these are all the channels that are connected today at different Amazons around the world, eBay, Walmart, Shopify. And the way to navigate the software is you can select what channels you want to look at. You can select and slice the data to specific brands. Again, I said, we're only looking at Home Labs and Mueller here. And then on the left here, you got the entire workflow of managing products across channels, right? So we're now looking at the management dashboard, which is where we're seeing real life data of our own business in real time. But on the left here, there are many different modules that kind of align with the kind of workflow of the company, right? So market research module, financial planning module. So that is where we can look for products. We can build a financial model for the products. That's where we also approve the product to go live. And then once the products arrive, the strategy engine, which I'll show a little bit of today, is where we manage the automation of the marketing. Fulfillment is everything that's managing inventory and shipping, and then finally support, right? So it really follows the lifetime of a product, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
Today we're going to focus mainly on managing how to manage your products in real time. So what we're seeing again here on the screen is a current real life data of the Home Labs and Mueller brands on Amazon US. You can see kind of trending revenue of today versus yesterday. These are hourly revenues. So the red line is yesterday, yellow is same day last week, and blue is today. The reason blue is coming down like that is because this is real-time data, right? So in an hour or so, you can see the revenue is quite repetitive. It's very kind of recurring. It's just because the way we operate is just really kind of capturing statistically the amount of people searching for all of our products, finding them and converting on them, and it's quite repetitive from that perspective. So I expect that blue line to kind of come up from here, right? And so this real life data is created by our software talking directly to Amazon, pulling all the information and allowing the team to manage it in real time. So let's look at a couple of the features here. So for example, this thing called the analysis tab is where you can kind of go and look at any product in real time and see its performance. So for example, this particular product, I can look here and see in one kind of real view, what is the relationship here between, how much we spend on ads, what's our contribution margin, how much we sell, etc. Right? What is the amount of the evolution of ratings, the evolution of units sold over time, the amount of inventory, how we're doing versus the targets. We can run real live P&Ls in real time for all the products where the team can basically, the software is basically gathering data from all the systems that we're connected to, right? So, if it's, you can look at things like how much we spend on logistics costs, how much are we spending on Amazon and other systems, right? How much do we spend on marketing? With at the bottom line, we're always kind of like looking to see what's going to be the contribution margin, right? The contribution margin is what we live or die by. It's where are the products making money after all these expenses or not? Now we manage our products through different phases. So when we look at this P&L, we might have multiple products that some are being launched, some are being already profitable and sustained. So one of the things we can do is we can also kind of slice and dice the P&L to look at certain dates and what frequency and certain phases to look only at products that have been launched, only products that are already past launch, etc. Right?
This is exactly what I talked about when I said that the insights come together, and
exactly,
the information is not diversified. Like it's very diversified, but it's not in too many places. It's all gathered in one place, which is genius in my opinion. And I see it and I'm blown away. Really, it's amazing.
No, just let me show you some other things. So for example, when we look at products, a lot of times, you can look at products in aggregate. So here's like a statistics of products trends. Are they doing better or less well than I don't know, some other period of time? You can aggregate products. You can kind of say, hey, show me this dehumidifier with this dehumidifier by hour, by day, how well they're doing. You can basically kind of like look at families of products together in a really good way. You can drill into any particular product. So now I'm going all the way into this one product, right? So here, what I did is I went all the way down from the channel to the brand to a particular product, right? And this particular product is actually a product that we acquired. This is a product from a company called Mueller, which is one of the acquisitions that we've done. It's a very strong product. And what you can see here is at the level of the product, again, hourly sales, breakdown of the contribution margin. We can see here exactly how much money we're spending on the different parts of the P&L, right? You can see how much inventory we have, the days on hand. You can see, here, the performance over time. One thing that I can see here is the impressions jumped, very dramatically, meaning the more people are looking at the product. This is typically due because sometimes what happens is when you have some pressure on the amount of inventory because you're selling too much, you have to slow down your marketing and so sometimes you might have something like this and then all of a sudden it comes back up because the marketing is coming back up online. When it's the beginning of the marketing, also the conversion rate might actually go down a little bit because when you kind of bring back the algorithms of the marketing, they're sometimes in exploration mode first. They're trying to find more things to market on, and then it starts to improve further and further. You can see the sales though are definitely going up, right? As the system is kind of pushing the marketing harder.
Wow.
Very important for us is to look at search ranking, right? So we constantly monitor many different searches that are relevant for the product, and you can see here, what's the search volume, what was the rank of the product. This product is very strong. It's showing up at the top of many different searches, and we monitor obviously that it continues to do so. We can look at the advertising results over time, how much ad spend. This is the ads matching back to what I said before. We turn back the ads here because before there was low inventory, and so now the system is kind of like ramping up the amount of people seeing the product, the click-through rate, everything is going up again as the automation of the marketing kicks in, right? So speaking of the automation of the marketing, right, this is one thing that a lot of people, I think, that are not necessarily e-commerce experts, maybe don't have always the best understanding of, right?
Or simply can't afford. So,
Say it again?
or simply can't afford, because usually if you won't have this amazing tool like I didn't have, so you would have to hire at least 5 to 10 people to do that job.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. And let's talk about what that job is for a second. So I'm going to go to Amazon, and I'm gonna just let's take an example for this product where let's say I'm going to say, I'm going to pretend I'm a consumer and I'm looking for an electric kettle, right? So for everyone who is on watching this, right, everyone that's in the US and uses Amazon all the time, everyone is familiar with this concept of kind of autocomplete, right? So when you search for something on Amazon or on Walmart or on all these e-commerce channels, right, search is becoming the new kind of like aisle, right? So it's almost like if I went to a store and I want an electric kettle, I would look above and I would see what aisle for appliances, and I would go there and I would search for an electric kettle. Maybe I have 5 or 6 products I can choose from, typically big brands, right? Online, it's very different. I can search for, there's infinite amount of searches I can perform here, and every one of them is going to bring some different results, right? So if I look for electric kettle, first of all, I'm going to see a bunch of advertising, right? And then, I'm going to see, for example, our product is the Amazon's choice for electric kettle, okay? So it's already doing really well here. But notice that right here, these are sponsored ads, which means that as a brand, these brands right here are buying an advertising at the top. Now, in general, across all of Amazon, the click-throughs, the amount of people who click on these ads is very small. It's depending on the category, it can hover between 1% or 2%, because consumers understand that this is an ad, and they typically skip and look at what's at the top of the shelf, because they understand that this is a recommendation that's based on kind of the performance of the product historically, right? And so what's interesting is if you are the brand, right, and you are trying to compete, you're basically needing to understand what is going on every one of these searches, because every one of them is going to have different results, right? If I search for electric kettle glass, I'm going to see different ads and I'm going to see different results, but at the end of the day, I'm going to, as a consumer, make a choice based on what I believe is the best offer, right? Now, as a brand, you have to track all the different ways consumers can search for your product. You can see it goes down the rabbit hole, right? I can continue to go down to here and I can say, now I want electric class 1 liter, right? Like this one might show all other different results. In this case, for example, we're not here because our product is not a good match for the search, right? So think about the complexity of doing that. So one of the things that, going back to Amy, right, one of the things that we are really believing is critical in terms of scaling to manage thousands and thousands of products is to automate that advertising, right? You, independent of you already have a really strong product, it's very important that you constantly make sure that you're advertising in the right places, showing up in front of customers in these ads where it makes sense, and don't spend money where it doesn't, right? Don't spend money on things where it doesn't convert well. So again, you could do that manually, right? You could sit down a bunch of people and they have an interface in Amazon where they can go every day and choose certain keywords and optimize them. But that's just extremely complex. So one of the things that we've built is we have in our system the ability to attach our product to an automated marketing strategy. So for example, this strategy right here is a combination of repricing and PPC, right? And
PPC, but is it fully automated, the PPC management?
Yes. Let me show you in a second. So the PPC management is fully automated on Amazon, and what it does is it basically let's look at it for a second. So the strategy basically pushes a bunch of results all the time into what's called a SKU strategy log. That's where we're going to see what the system is doing. So it's loading now all the different things it's doing. This is kind of a little technical here, right? But these are basically, the system is telling us about all the decisions it's taking. I'm going to filter it for a second to some reports that related to pricing. So here's some reports related to pricing. I want to look at the PPC for a second. So let me find the first PPC report. These reports happen all the time, right? So here's, for example, the PPC report, the last one that we have. And the way it works is basically a human is going to come up with a bunch of keywords, right, that are basic keywords, and the system is going to take those, because the system obviously doesn't know initially that this is a glass kettle, right? So typically what we tell it is like, some keywords that are relevant, like kettle or tea kettle. And then what the system is going to do is it's going to basically, I'm going to pick a couple here. It's going to basically start, say for example, with the word electric kettle, right? So the system is going to be given this word by a human, and it's going to automatically, with fully complete automation, it's going to basically create multiple campaigns for the product to try to figure out what are the best things to add. And so, for example, this is the result of the system experimenting, and this is the last snapshot of what the system is currently doing for everything related to the keyword electric kettle, right? So over time, what the system has done is typically it creates two types of ad campaigns. One that is very broad, but uses only a very small budget. The broad advertising campaign is not designed to make money. It's designed to find every possible permutation of search that a human might have come up with that is related to electric kettle. So it's going to tell basically, again, the system automatically is going to create an ad campaign on Amazon. It's going to tell Amazon, hey, anything that has the word electric kettle in it, I want to run my product as an ad for it. Now, again, a lot of it is going to go bad, right? Because a lot of it is not going to right fit. So we saw the 1 liter. That's not a good fit. Yeah. But that's okay, because we're going to use a percentage of the budget, typically 10% or something, to just get always the reports back of what people are actually searching, what is working for us, right? And then what's going to happen is the system is going to build this map, and it's going to decide in real time. You see the scores that are here. They're basically telling the system is telling us, I'm currently weighting my budget more towards the keywords that have the biggest score, right? And how is the score calculated? It's a function of what matters to us, right? Actually, it's funny. Look, electric kettle 1 liter is actually working okay, so it's interesting. You know, it's, the score is not too bad for it, so it's interesting. But the good news, when you see some of them don't, right? For example, what's interesting is some people search for the Amazon Basics version. That's not converting very well for us. That's great, no problem. You know, if those people want the Amazon Basics version, we don't want to waste any money on it because frankly, they don't convert very well.
Want the Amazon Basic one, yeah.
Exactly. But it works really well in the most generic keyword, and also works pretty well in a lot of other kind of like versions. Like, for example, for some reason, electric kettles with an S converts probably quite well and gets good results, right? So again, the system is basically, you know, reducing dramatically the dependence on human beings having to go for every one of these keywords. Now, remember, this is just one keyword. You know, here's another report for just the word tea kettle, right? And so this one, you know, produces another kind of like, these are all basically path to purchases that the system has discovered. And here the results are different, right? There's different scores. So again, if a human had to do this, and there are, again, hundreds and hundreds of reports like this, right, per product, and there could be thousands of products, the complexity of having to go and look at every keyword and how well are we doing? And are we spending the right amount of money? Are we overspending on it? Should we tweak the keywords to be you know, certain negative keywords? All these things we're basically trying to automate so that we can have our team manage more products more efficiently by overseeing what the system does, as opposed to having to do it manually, right? That's a very important thing, I think, you know, for the audience. I think it's not always easy for the audience to understand what exactly our software does. How does it create that operating leverage? I think that for anyone who's done marketing and is understanding the complexity of trying to figure out how customers are going to find my product, and how is it going to be really efficient for me, or am I going to just spend a lot of money and realize only a couple of weeks later that I was, you know, hitting the wrong keywords? This thing is doing it basically all the time, right? It's relentlessly day and night, constantly optimizing, constantly making sure that we're spending our dollars on the right searches that convert and that do what we want to do for the product, right?
I think like by automating everything is just, you know, simply makes your life easier as a seller, because I would obviously need at least 10 people to do this job. And, you know, even if they would have the insight, they couldn't do it as good as the software does it. And, you know, as it does it 24/7. So this is a huge advantage.
Yes, exactly. And then let's look at a couple other things since we're looking at this product. For example, for those who are familiar with selling online, you know, when you manage a large portfolio of products, there's always going to be some problems. For example, you know, some example, maybe some unauthorized sellers trying to sell your products in a way that's a counterfeit, for example, or maybe for some reason, you know, someone was able to change the main image of your product. So it's very complicated. It's actually very detrimental. You know, if you have a very large portfolio of products and the products are all of a sudden kind of changing or not performing as well, to know what went wrong is again, very time demanding, right? So one of the things we're doing is we have this health check that constantly checks every few hours that across many different regions in the United States, we still have the buy box. The buy box means that Amazon is giving us the ability to sell, right? Again, we typically are the only sellers on our product, but there can be situations where you don't have the buy box because you have a pricing error or because you're shipping in a particular region. That's why you're seeing in a different region is not optimal, right? So the ability to track that and to alert our team if something goes wrong is extremely important. Again, important automation to be able to do that in real time, right? And then, so for example, here, the product description, something is wrong with it. So someone is going to look at it at some point in time. This is not a typically huge problem. So it could be a little longer before someone fixes it. But obviously things like losing the buy box or unauthorized sellers will get typically visibility much faster, right? Another important thing is, just the ability to kind of look at your data historically over time, right? So, let's look at, if we look at this product, just kind of zoom in on a region, so things like, how much inventory did I have through the whole period of time? How much was it in Amazon versus in my warehouse? What was my price over time? What was my contribution margin over time? The revenue, if I use discounts, all these things, right, are really important to be able to kind of pull back very quickly. But also very important, one of the other very tedious things that you have to do if you're trying to manage a lot of products is you have to forecast all the time because things change. And again, think about managing thousands of products. How are you going to make sure that you're ordering the right amount? It's extremely tedious to analyze every one of them. This is where we use machine learning in a very efficient way, and we basically constantly reforecast the products on a daily basis based on different parameters, and the system constantly learns and applies different models to try to predict what the sales are going to be. But with machine learning, it's garbage in, garbage out, right? If your data is not good, then your results are not going to be good. And so one of the things that's important for this here is that we can basically say, hey, look, here we had some anomaly, right? Like we can basically tag some parts of our historical data and say to the system that predicts the forecast, hey, here maybe we ran out of inventory, or we had a big, we did a lightning deal and we sold like thousands of units, but that doesn't mean that that's a normal thing, right? So we tag it as an anomaly, and that helps our forecasting module, which is very important, right, to make the right decisions and to give us the right forecast going forward, right? So, here as well, you can see, the forecast is basically showing us basically what the recommendation is. And then you can see a human can come here and approve or override it, right? So for example, the system is thinking that these are going to be the sales going forward in terms of daily units, and a human can come here and override it and save it. If the human, for example, might know things that the system can predict. For example, we're doing a special promotion with whatever, right? And so we can override it, but you can see here that we're running all these different models and basically automatically choosing the one that is the best kind of error ratio, and then saving an enormous amount of time for our team who would otherwise have to kind of do all this manually. We can save many versions of the forecast, come back to them to see if things went well or not. And so again, another piece of capability that allows us to better, more efficiently manage the products going forward. So this, again, we just looked at one product. And so to recap, right, real-time information, on sales and inventory levels and performance of the marketing, real-time automation and bidding of the pricing and the PPC, real-time health checks, ability to annotate data to make better forecasts, daily forecasts. All this automation makes us able to manage that product, 10 to 50 times more efficiently than anyone who would have to do it manually, right? And again, the name of the game, we want to be a company that manages, hundreds of thousands of products across many different channels, and the complexity just grows and grows as you add them. Without the investment in technology and infrastructure, it would be pretty much impossible to do that.
I think that also one thing you forget to mention is that you have tons of data inside the platform, and as you showed us, it works so super well and super smooth. And one thing that I really like is that it's also user friendly. If some platforms, yeah, some platform shows you the data and it's not also it's not combined, it's not automated, it's not, sometimes it's not fully automated, but most of the times it's pretty hard to understand what you're doing exactly, which is in this case very easy because everything is so clear and and synced and automated, so you don't have to worry a lot. You just have to be really clear and work throughout the process and do everything correct, which is amazing. And I think you guys did a great job contributing to the e-commerce technology. And I think this is a really life-changing platform for someone. But one question I have to ask when we talk about those products is, as I asked you've been quite acquisitive in the past few months, and I guess you're gonna continue to acquire companies in the future. So why won't you just continue to acquire some companies and use your platform and your infrastructure in order to design your business and your strategy as a way that would create more revenue from more brands over time?
Sorry, you mean like offering it as a service? I'm sorry, I didn't sure you get the last piece.
No.
I mean, we're definitely going to continue to acquire companies because we think that there's an opportunity to grow massively by aggregating and consolidating the space, right? But I think the second part of your question was about helping others.
Yeah, no, you just answered my question. I was wondering if, like, by acquiring more companies and use your infrastructure, are you gonna plan to grow? Is that like your long-term strategy?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't understand the question. Yeah, 100%. The growth through M&A is extremely compelling. It's just a lot of times, there's an opportunity that's kind of historical, right? I mean, if you think about e-commerce in the US in the last, again, 10 years, there's been such a gold rush and an opportunity for many small businesses to do quite well. Yeah. And it's created a very fragmented ecosystem. I mean, just on Amazon itself, talking hundreds of billions of dollars that are managed by, millions of small sellers. I mean, literally 61% of all the sales on Amazon are coming from small sellers. And so again, not all of them are good acquisition targets, but armed with the data, we can identify the right targets. And as importantly, right, because of all the automation and the ability that we have to manage more products more efficiently, acquiring those and putting them on our platform and using the automation that I just showed you to manage them going forward is incredibly exciting because you add all this revenue and all this EBITDA, but you're keeping your fixed costs a lot more in control, right? Of course, the goal is not to just, we have to find the right swing in the pendulum, right? To not just go and try to make as much profit as possible, but not invest in growth, right? We want to reinvest back into R&D to add more channels to the platform over time. We want to expand our business model to India, to China, to Europe is happening right now, right? So
yeah, are you planning
that kind of like balance that we have to find, right? But there's no doubt that we're really well set and well prepared to aggregate a very large amount of revenue. And again, thanks to the platform and the infrastructure we build, we think we can do it very efficiently.
Wow. Well, another question that I was wondering about is, are you planning to expand to other platforms in the future, like Shopee or maybe other platforms that are not that common in the US or in Europe?
Yeah, Europe is definitely a very high priority for us, right now. And in terms of other platforms in the United States, what's fascinating is that there's other platforms like Wayfair and others, and they're really interesting. But at the same time, people underestimate the magnitude of Amazon, and it's so dominant that a lot of times you're asking yourself, like, should I just spend more of my resources launching more products on that platform, or should I spend more of my resources trying to expand to others where the ROI on the others, is just not enough there yet, right? I mean, it's going to happen over time. We will absolutely be on these other platforms, but when you compare the ROI of acquiring or launching more products on Amazon, or trying to expand to other platforms, which are, to be honest, quite behind in terms of their capabilities and their, it's like, for example, we can't
also
automate.
GMV.
Yeah, we can't also automate the things as well on other platforms because they just don't have the level of APIs that Amazon has. Walmart is the closest, but even Walmart is quite far behind, right? I think internationally, You look at China, for example, Tmall, JD, those platforms are really well designed for what we're doing because they're extremely modern. They have tons of APIs, tons of data feeds. They're built, for the type of kind of mindset that we have. You look at other platforms around the world. You have Rakuten in Japan. You have Flipkart in India. You have Mercado Libre in South America. So our model is extremely, it can extend horizontally really well. It's just a matter of resources and priority, right? So far, the opportunity in the US continues to be phenomenal, and as we grow, we're gonna obviously expand to Europe and other channels. But it's a good problem to have. It's like there's too much good opportunity. It's hard to prioritize it, right?
I wish you will have those problems in the future, and that those would be your problems. So one last question that I was really interested personally to ask you, because I really admire your job and what you guys are doing, but also the way you did it. So I wanted to ask you about, how do you see the future of e-commerce in the next 5 to 10 years? If you look at it like in general.
Yeah, I think one of the most powerful things that e-commerce has done, and to really gain traction over traditional brick and mortar retail, is it just empowers customers, right?
Yeah.
It's allowing you as a customer to, first of all, have more competition in terms of the brands that are trying to offer you things, right? Again, in traditional brick and mortar retail, the shelf was very limited in space. So you had maybe 5, 6, 10 products to choose from. Online, you can have thousands. It's really much, the shelf is infinite. That creates better competition, that gets better pricing for consumers. And obviously, like all the different retail channels are trying to focus on, again, giving you more tools to find the products you want, more data to make the right decisions about what product to buy, better payment terms, better shipping terms. So it's just way more customer centric, right? And so I think at a very high level, whatever is going to prevail in e-commerce, independent of if it's like, one type of business model or another, the one central thing is it's going to be whoever is going to be most consumer centric, empower the customer more, give them more data and more ability to make the right choices. That's what's going to win. In my opinion, right now, I personally believe that the marketplace business model is by far the best model known today in e-commerce. It is, you have brick and mortar wholesale retail, then you had online wholesale retail, and then now marketplace is taking over. And the reason is it's just the best model for everyone, right? It cuts more of the middleman out. It creates more competition. It creates more empowerment again for the customer, and it allows the retailer to really become more of a platform as opposed to a wholesaler that has to buy your inventory, right? So it lets the retailer all of a sudden like outsource the sourcing of the product, carrying it in inventory. All of that is done now by the brands, right?
Yeah.
And for the brands, it's more challenging because it requires them now to do a lot of the things that they didn't have to do in the past because they were just shipping pallets to the retailer and the retailer was doing everything. Now the marketplaces are telling the brands, hey, you got to go and do your own marketing, your own pricing, all these things, which is again why we're building the technology, because it's not scalable otherwise. So the reason I think marketplaces are going to be the most powerful business model online is because they empower the customer, they empower the retailer, and they also empower the brand if the brand knows how to own all its data and how to own its decision making. I think the way we're trying to do online, right? So I believe that marketplaces will be where the large majority of online e-commerce will happen.
Yaniv, thank you so much for having me today. I was really excited to have this conversation with you, and I think I learned a lot, and also everyone who's going to watch is going to learn a lot because your product is amazing, and I'm a big supporter of your brand, and I'll continue to be there. So thank you so much for joining me today, and have a great day.